Welcome to the Chase Podcast. Dr. Ron Charles is a renowned archaeologist, author, historian, speaker, missionary, and is known as the Christian Indiana Jones. Visit cubitfoundation.org for Dr. Ron's books and information about this global ministry.
I was invited to the El Edazah University in Cairo. Now, that's the only university in the world that trains Islamic holy men, imams. So if you are a imam for a mosque in Dallas or Washington, D.C., in Bangkok or in Berlin or in Cairo or Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, you went to school at this university. And that's where they trained them. And if you were an official imam, then you had to graduate from this university. I was invited to this university to, they said, to have a small debate on why I'm Christian. And so I accepted the invite, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I pictured in my mind that I would be in a chair on a stage, and there would be another imam. There would be an imam on a chair on the stage, and we would kind of bat back and forth our opinions and answer questions and that type of thing. So that's what I was anticipating. When I arrived, there were 17 imams there. 17. They were lined up, and they were truly sitting in their chairs on a stage, and then there was one chair over here, and that was mine. And so I said, man, nothing like a sheep to the slaughter. And I'm going to have to fight with 17 knives. And these guys were brilliant. And it was on TV, being broadcast to the Islamic countries of the Middle East. And I didn't feel anything. I was praying. I said, Lord, just, give me wisdom. And don't let me lose my temper. And let me say the right things. And I said, Lord, just give me the assurance that you're here, that you're directing me. And I felt absolutely nothing, zero. And I would say, God, where are you? And so they said, Dr. Charles, would you like to go first, or would you like our esteemed colleagues to go first? And I said, well, there's more of you than me, so go ahead and go. And all 17 of these guys, for the next 2 hours and 45 minutes, absolutely ripped me up one side and down the other. And they were saying things like, we know that you are a Christian, but we don't understand why. Christians believe da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Christians are responsible for this and this and this and this. And because of Christians, we have this bad thing and that bad thing and this bad thing. And your Christian faith is founded on your Bible, and your Bible is full of mistakes and da-da-da, and on and on and on. And they gave really a very convincing argument, very convincing. And after each one of them spoke, I felt lower and lower with each one. And as they were doing it, I would just close my eyes and said prayers under my breath. I said, my God, where are you? I don't understand this. I don't understand this emptiness that I'm feeling. I just don't understand why aren't you here? This is your golden opportunity to reveal yourself to the Islamic world. And finally, when the last one of the 17 was finished, I said, Lord, this is your last chance. Of course, I'm sure he was very frightened. I said, we got to do something here. And then I felt this one little statement, just a flash. And he says, I got this. Okay. But I didn't feel it in here. As far as I knew, Jesus did not show up just like here in John, the 11th chapter. And so they asked me, said, Dr. Charles, are you ready to give your response? And I said, no, but I will. And I said, I really don't have a whole lot to say, but I have two statements I want to say. And these two statements is not in defense of myself or in defense of the accusations that were made by your esteemed colleagues. But they're just two statements that you got it wrong. And I want to correct you. First of all, I am not a Christian. They said, what? I said, no. I am a follower of Jesus. I said, you've already explained, your men have explained what Christians are. Christians are those that live by a set of rules that the religious hierarchy have handed down. Christians are those that did kill multiplied thousands in the Crusades and the European holy wars and still are doing so today in some parts of the world. Christians are those that demand acceptance because they are the only ones that are right. And you've laid out a remarkable history of the Christian faith. And I don't dispute that. But I'm just proud that I'm not one of those. I am a follower of Jesus. Now, as far as this foundation is concerned, that's another mistake that you made. Because to me, the Bible is not my foundation of my faith. The foundation of my faith is Jesus. The Bible is a record of him, a record of his life, a record of the people of his ancestry. That's what the Bible is. My foundation is not in that record. My foundation is in him. But fortunately, how I learn about him and who he is recorded in this book. And that is the best source that I have to know him, to find out what he taught, to find out his personality. And he is my perfect example. Now, on that basis, we can talk. First of all, I'm not a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. And second of all, this Bible is not my foundation. Jesus Christ is my foundation. Now, what questions do you have? And there was silence for about 10 minutes. Nobody said anything. Nothing. And then the moderator then said, Dr. Charles, we don't know what to say. We don't know what to ask. you have destroyed our agenda. But I am proud to say this, that I feel that all of our men are in agreement that as of this day, we welcome you into our community. And we welcome you to continue to do what you're doing. Jesus wasn't there, I thought. Jesus didn't show up, I thought. But I sure am glad that he doesn't use my actions and my evaluations to make his judgments, because he absolutely was there. And the second time is that I was on a search for Noah's Ark expedition, and we had done some research and so forth. And so on a Sunday, was a day off. We called for a day off, and I was the only believer that was there. And before we left Ankara, Turkey, they told us, it said, no religious materials, no Bibles, no Quran, nothing. And so they took, the Turkish representatives took all of our holy books, and I had you remember in the 5th grade, you got this little Gideon Bible? You remember that? Okay, well, I had one of those in my pocket, and of course, they were going to confiscate it, so I took it out of my pocket and ripped a page out. And I had no idea what I ripped out. But I just ripped this page out, folded it up, and stuck it in my underwear. And so we went on out, and of course I didn't keep it in my underwear the next week. But I hid it by getting it into Eastern Turkey that way. Well, on this Sunday, some of the guys they knew I was a believer, and they asked me. They said, we think that we'd like maybe for about 5-10 minutes, will you give us a little study, a little sermonette type thing? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. And so I took this ripped up page that I had and unfolded it. And what it was, you remember the woman with an issue of blood, that she touched the hem of Jesus' garment and she was healed. And so I gave a little sermonette on that. And so we had guards, and we had a guard, and we were all meeting in my room. We had a guard here at the door, and then there were guards all the way down the hallway and so forth, so that to guard it, and we weren't supposed to be meeting this way, but they allowed us. And so, but they supposedly they couldn't speak English, and so I was okay with that. Afterwards, everyone dispersed, went back to their rooms, or went to do whatever they wanted to do. And the guard that was at the door, he came in to my room, and he grabbed me by the arm, and he says, "I understand English." I said, "Oh, Lord, you come with me." So I knew without a doubt that this was arrest time. And this was a time that I certainly wasn't looking forward to. We went out and got in a Jeep and drove to the end of the road. And I don't know where we were. We could have still been in Turkey. We could have been in Iran. We could have been in Armenia. I didn't know where we were. But at the end of the road, he says one thing to me. He says, "I understand everything you said." I said, "Okay." And then we got on horses, and we rode and we rode and we rode. Didn't say a word throughout this time. We went up into the mountains, crested the mountains, going down on the backside. And it was, and the sun was just going down when we was on the back side of the mountains, and I looked down in a clearing, and there was this a camp, and there's a large, the round tents, the Mongolian type tents. There was a big one in the center. Then there was about maybe 12 or 13 smaller ones around, and then there was a bunch of goats all over. There were goat herders. So we got down to the camp and got off the animals. And when we got off, he spoke to me again for only the second time. He says, "I do understand English, and I'm trying to teach my people English. This is my village. I am chief of my village." I said, "Okay." He says, "The woman with the bleeding, this man, Jesus, he is a holy man?" I said, "Yes, he is. But he's more than that." He says, "This Jesus, he's a God." I said, "Yes, he is a God." He said, he is a woman's God." I said, "Yes, he's a woman's God, but he is also a man's God. He is a creator of everything." This God, this Jesus, he can stop the bleeding, the blood. He stops it now? I said, "Yes, he can." He says, "Okay, I have 5 wives." I said, "Okay." He says, "My favorite wife, my youngest wife, she had a child 3 months ago. And since that time, she continues to bleed. She continues to hemorrhage. And she must sit on a fleece, a goat fleece. And when it becomes filled with blood, we throw it and she sits on another. The people of the village feel that she is cursed. And the mountain gods feel that she has defiled them and offended them, and they demand that I take her to the mountains for her to die, basically to starve to death. And I do not want to do that, but I must in order to keep peace in the village. Your Jesus, he can stop the blood?" I said, "Yes." Now, all the time that I was traveling by Jeep and then by horse, I was praying because I didn't know what was ahead. This guy, he had his guns and machetes and various things as an armed terrorist would have. And I didn't really know what was going to happen around the next corner or over the next hill. So I was praying and praying and praying and praying. And the further we went, the less I felt the presence of God. When we got down to his village, I was totally empty. It was as if God didn't exist. And that Jesus stayed back at the camp. He didn't ride on the horse with me. He didn't ride in the Jeep. And I have to say that was, at that time, the other incident hadn't happened yet, but at that time, that was the most empty that I had ever felt spiritually. God was not there. And so when I told him, yes, God, Jesus could do that, he says, "Okay, come with me." So we went to the center tent, the largest tent, and went inside, and it was divided down the center. He stayed on one side. his 5 wives and children stayed on the other side. And so we walked in there, and he called his wife, called her by name, and she came out and with a veil on and so forth, and bowed down. She was only about 14, 15 years old, but she bowed down at his feet, and he told me, he says, "Okay, go." I said, "What? What? Go what?" He said, "Do what you do. Do Jesus. Make Jesus come." I said, "You want her to be healed of the blood?" Yes. Go do. I said, "Well, we do this by prayer." "Okay, go do." So I was smart enough to know that I don't touch the woman. That'd be a good way to lose not only my hand, but my arm and my life. So I asked him to put his hand on his wife. And then I put my hand on her. And I said, "Heavenly Father, so that this chief in the village will know who you are, touch this woman and heal her body." You know, in the movies, when something like this occurs, you hear this, and the sides of the tent start flapping. You know that? Well, that didn't happen. I felt absolutely nothing. And I felt more of nothing than I had ever felt nothing before. God was not there, period. And now my life was probably going to be forfeited. When I finished praying, he says, "Is that all?" I said, "Yes, that's all." So he sent his wife away. He said, "Sit." I said, "Okay." He says, "We have kielbasa." I said, "Okay." Well, I didn't know what kielbasa was. And so he put some tea on, and we had some tea and kielbasa. Now kielbasa is quite unusual. I can give y'all some the next time we go over there if you want to. It is fried in olive oil and salt, goat dung. And I didn't ask for seconds. But I also didn't dare refuse. And so as we were enjoying our snack, I heard this blood-curdling scream. Just, "Ah!" And I said, "Oh my God, she died." And she came running out from behind this divider with the fleece, and she says, "No blood, no blood." And she went out so quickly, she didn't even put her veil on. And she dropped down at my feet and held on. And he didn't believe her. He went back to the women's quarters, and he thought that maybe they were playing a trick on her or something. But sure enough, it was true. The bleeding had stopped. And in my opinion, God wasn't even there. And the Lord said, "I'm glad for your sakes that I wasn't there." And it wasn't the fact that he wasn't. It was the fact that they didn't feel it. They didn't realize it. And in my case, I didn't realize it. The chief went out, whistled, called everybody together in the tribe. And he says, "This, my good friend, He brings Jesus. Jesus is a real God. You will serve this God today. Bow down. Man, they hit the ground. But I was ready to get out of there. He did get me back to our camp real late, almost the next morning. Got a chance to find out about that tribe, about that chief 4 or 5 years later. And not only were they still serving Jesus as their God, they were going throughout the mountains, the hillsides, proclaiming him to others.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Charles of the Cubit Foundation. You know, we've been in Middle East for going on 30 years. And I would love to come to your church or your meeting to let you know what's happening in reality in the Middle East. And we'd love to come there and let you know what's happening, what the Lord's doing in that part of the world. So if you can contact us at thecubitfoundation.org, then we could come to your place. If you would like to find out more about us, then go to www.cubitfoundation.org. Thank you.
The Chase with Dr. Ron Charles is sponsored by supporters of the Cubit Foundation. Visit cubitfoundation.org for Dr. Ron's books and discover how you can support this global ministry.